The movie centers around a famous local restaurant named The Seven, located on Spring Avenue in Hong Kong. The talented chef of the restaurant, Sky Ko, specializes in Southern-style cuisine. A TV host features the 30-year-old restaurant and its chef on a culinary program. Sky showcases his talent on national television, even though he is already widely regarded as the best chef on Spring Avenue. Alongside him, his friend Uni is introduced to the audience. She usually manages the restaurant's finances. Sky is very particular about the quality of food and the service time they provide to their customers, which is one of the reasons the restaurant is so popular. Most of the time, it is so packed that a queue forms outside. One day, a rude customer barges in, skipping the line. Sky refuses to serve him, even though the man boasts about his power and wealth. Before leaving, the man mocks their small restaurant and reveals that his boss has invited a world-class chef to open a 3-star restaurant right across the street. The statement scares Uni, but she dismisses it as a bluff. Meanwhile, in France, the crowned king and queen welcome their newborn son. They hold a massive ball to celebrate the birth and invite a world-class chef to cook for the guests. This chef is Paul On, a Michelin-starred Korean chef trained in France. Paul has a unique cooking style that blends cuisines from various countries, resulting in innovative dishes. For the queen's special dessert, he presents a creation that looks like a red egg, but is filled with mango puree and coconut, symbolizing a traditional blessing for newborns. The delicious dish and its meaningful symbolism touch the hearts of the royal family, who applaud Paul's brilliance. After the successful ball, Paul and his assistant Mayo return to the restaurant where they work. The owner and staff cheerfully welcome them back and congratulate them. The owner announces that Paul has been promoted to executive chef of the entire Art Nouveau franchise. However, to everyone's surprise, Paul declines the offer. He wants to return to Asia to pursue a bigger dream. He and Mayo have been invited by a Chinese businessman to open a 3-star restaurant. The staff supports their decision and wishes them well. Back on Spring Avenue, one of Sky's regular customers informs him that the rumor about the new restaurant is true. The news is bittersweet for Sky. He wants his neighborhood to develop, but a new high-end restaurant would mean fewer customers and more competition. When Sky was 10 years old, his father used to hit and insult him for having no cooking talent. One day, his father abandoned him, choosing to pursue his culinary dreams instead of being a parent, claiming Sky couldn't even make a decent bowl of noodles. Since then, Uncle Seven, the owner of the Seven, has raised Sky and taught him everything he knows about food. Sky has not seen his father in over 20 years and has no intention of reconciling. The next morning, Paul arrives in Hong Kong and visits the market in search of a large grouper fish. The seller only has one and decides to sell it to Sky, knowing he'll cook it better. Paul protests, saying a shopkeeper shouldn't be biased. A small argument ensues, and eventually, the seller cuts the fish in half to share between them. A few weeks later, the grand opening ceremony of the 3-star restaurant Stellar takes place. Right across from the Seven, the chairman and manager of the Lee Management Group arrive as the first guests, welcomed by Paul and Mayo. At the same time, the staff of the Seven announce special discounts for the week. When security guards from Stellar try to stop them, a conflict arises, drawing the attention of Paul and the guests. As the argument escalates, Mayo suggests holding a cooking competition to see who is better. Sky and Paul recognize each other from the market and accept the challenge. They decide to compete in a fish-cutting contest. Paul goes first, skillfully removing all the fish's ribs in no time. Then Sky takes the same fish and cuts it into even pieces in under a minute. The crowd applauds, and even Paul is impressed. The chairman of the Lee Group, aiming to remain neutral, announces that the real competition will be held at the upcoming International Chef Challenge competition, in which both chefs are participants. He also reveals that he plans to redevelop the entire Spring Avenue, removing all existing buildings. However, if Sky wins the competition, he promises to cancel the redevelopment and preserve the colony's heritage. If Paul wins, the modernization will proceed. With the future of Spring Avenue in his hands, Sky feels immense pressure, but he is determined to do his best. Over the next few days, the Seven sees a decline in customers. Uni worries they might go out of business, but Sky reassures her. He compares it to escargots and field snails. There will always be people who prefer one over the other. He insists they don't need to change their food to compete. Their loyal customers will remain. The following day, Sky is disappointed to learn that Stellar has bought all the good fish from the market. The staff of the Seven feel frustrated, until they hear that Sky has been selected to compete in the culinary challenge against Paul for a spot in the semifinals. However, it is also revealed that the winner will have to face the two-time champion, Mountain Co, Sky's father. Sky is stunned to learn of his father's success. He becomes even more determined to reach the finals and finally confront him. That night, Uncle Seven returns from a trip and invites Sky to meet him at a pub. Excited, Sky arrives, only to find his father there with Uncle Seven. Mountain coldly tells Sky that he still doesn't believe in him and doesn't regret abandoning him. The hurtful words sting, but Sky hides his pain and responds with anger. He vows to win the competition and prove that being a good chef doesn't require being a bad person. On the day of the culinary duel, the contestants are given 90 minutes to prepare a dish of their choice. Sky prepares a traditional salt-baked duck, while Paul makes a foie gras sorbet. The entire 90 minutes are intense as both chefs display incredible skill. Sky expertly removes the duck's innards and finishes by baking it in salt. When the salt crust is cracked open, a perfectly cooked duck with vegetable stuffing is revealed, impressing the audience. The judges taste the dishes and seem more impressed by Sky's duck than Paul's sorbet. When it's time to vote, Paul receives 3 9s and a perfect 10, earning a total of 37 points. Next, Sky receives 2 10s from the first 2 judges. The third judge gives him a 9, but the final judge only gives him an 8. With both chefs tied in points, the head judge makes the executive decision to declare Paul the winner, citing his dish's superior presentation compared to Sky's more plain plating. Although Paul's victory should have solidified his reputation as a top chef, things take an unexpected turn. During the celebration, the manager informs Paul that he plans to replace him with Mayo for the final round, claiming a woman is more appealing in the media. When Paul tries to defend his position as head chef, Mayo exposes that he struggles to taste certain flavors, like saltiness. For the past few months, he's relied on a notebook containing all his recipes and has been unable to cook independently. Mayo also reveals that she never truly wanted to be his friend and only supported him to surpass him as a chef. Betrayed and heartbroken, Paul storms out of the restaurant, vowing never to return. That night, Sky runs into a drunk Paul in front of an event stadium. They set aside their rivalry for a moment and open up about their pasts and struggles. Paul reveals that his father was a renowned chef whose dying wish was for Paul to follow in his footsteps. Sky also talks about his relationship with his father, Mountain Co. After the conversation, they gain a mutual respect for each other. In a humorous moment, they throw bottles of alcohol at Mountain's billboard photo while cursing at him in Korean. Paul decides not to give up on the competition. Since he can no longer represent the Stellar restaurant, he finds a loophole in the rule book that allows him to compete as an independent chef. He even asks Sky to join him for the semifinals. Meanwhile, the Stellar manager visits the Seven restaurant, trying to pressure Uncle Seven into signing over the property to the Lee Group. Just then, Paul and Sky appear and announce their partnership. Paul also reminds the manager that, as the competition winner, he is still eligible to compete in the championship. Over the following weeks, Sky and Paul train together, sharing their culinary styles and finding a middle ground by modernizing traditional cuisine. The semi-finals of the culinary competition take place at the Studio City Casino in Macau. The winner will go on to face the current god of cookery, Mountain Co. Sky and Paul combine their strengths to compete against 4 world-class chefs. Meanwhile, the lead group has forced Mayo into the competition. She carefully prepares an oyster dish with frozen foam, which impresses the judges at first, but ultimately leaves them underwhelmed. Meanwhile, Paul and Sky prepare a deconstructed mapo tofu. Sky's refined sense of taste helps perfect the flavor, while Paul's culinary artistry ensures flawless technique and presentation. Together, they create a traditional dish with a modern twist. The judges are deeply impressed and compliment the dish in detail. In the end, they win the semi-final and advance to the final round. As the crowd cheers, Paul looks at Mayo, who stands with her head lowered, ashamed that she betrayed him and still failed to prove herself. For the final round, only one chef can compete against Mountain. Paul, acknowledging his impaired sense of taste, insists that Sky should go. He knows that defeating Mountain is personal for Sky, and believes Sky is the one who deserves this chance. The next day, Sky comes face to face with his father. The competition gives them an hour to cook any dish of their choice. The two exchange no words as the clock starts. Mountain begins cooking immediately, but Sky is distracted by his emotions. Memories of abandonment and thoughts of the community he loves overwhelm him. Noticing his son's hesitation, Mountain splashes water on his face to jolt him back into focus. Sky snaps out of it and starts making dough. By the end of the hour, Mountain presents an elegant sugar sculpture representing molten lava with a flower on top. In contrast, Sky's dish is simple but heartfelt. Homemade noodles, just like the ones Mountain made years ago before leaving him. The judges taste Mountain's impressive dish, but Sky does not serve his to them. Instead, he places the bowl of noodles in front of his father. Mountain eats the dish and is moved, reminded of the bond they once shared. At last, he acknowledges his son's brilliance as a chef. The competition winner is never officially announced, as the judges never tasted Sky's dish. In the final scene, a crowd gathers outside the 7 restaurant to celebrate Chinese New Year. Sky and Paul cook together, serving the neighborhood as one big family. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thanks for watching.